Okay. Well, this month, the month of May, our theme is living a life, creating a life of magic. And big magic. I kind of dedicate this to Mark Young there, since he is a magician. One day we're going to have you do some, in fact, it might be this month. I'm just letting you know now. Okay. So,
Might be now.
big magic.
No pressure.
You're going to get magic.
Oh, yeah.
Because it goes somewhat like this.
Oh, yes.
There was once a magician on a cruise ship who had performed mainly sleight of hand tricks. He had a regular spot on the ship's entertainment evening every night. And he was actually quite a good magician. But he had one big problem. His routines were regularly ruined by the onboard parrot, who would fly around squawking and giving away his secrets, saying things like, "It's up his sleeve, it's up his sleeve. It's in his pocket, it's in his pocket. It's in his mouth, it's in his mouth." The magician was getting pretty sick of this and threatened to do physical harm to the parrot if it ruined his act one more time. Then that evening, right as the magician was about to disappear in a puff of smoke for the grand finale, the ship hit an iceberg and sank in seconds. Amazingly, the magician and the parrot were the only two survivors. The magician was lying on a piece of driftwood in a daze, and as he opened his eyes, he could see the parrot staring at him with his one beady eye. The parrot sat there for what seemed like an eternity, just staring at him. The wheels of his little brain turning and turning. Eventually he says, "Okay, you got me this time. What did you do with the ship?" So, that's not the kind of big magic we're going to be talking about this. But big magic nonetheless, as we use the brilliance of Elizabeth Gilbert's book, her most recent book, Big Magic, and it's called Big Magic, Creative Living Beyond Fear. So to explore the attitudes, approaches, and habits needed to uncover our hidden treasure. Once again, we're going to talk about that because I feel that every couple of months we have to revisit that hidden treasure that's within each and every one of us, to face our fears and to trust that the universe will always take care of us, all of which leads us to the most creative, magical lives, the lives that God intended for us to live. Early on in Big Magic, Gilbert poses a very important question. And it's a question that we're going to explore this morning. So this is from her book, Big Magic. So this, I believe, is the central question upon which all creative living hinges. Do you have the courage to bring forth the treasures that are hidden within you? Look, I don't know what's hidden within you. It's true. Have no way of knowing such a thing. You yourself may barely know it. Although I suspect you might have caught glimpses. I don't know your capacity, she writes, your aspirations, your longings, your secret talents. But surely something wonderful is sheltered inside of you. And I say this with all confidence, because I happen to believe we are all walking repositories of buried treasure. I like that. I believe this is still her, of the oldest and most generous tricks the universe plays on us human beings, both for its own amusement and for ourselves. The universe buries strange jewels inside, deep within all of us, and then stands back to see if we can find them. That sentiment is consistent with the ancient Hindu story of the Creator and the angels, And you've probably heard this, maybe heard this before, but I love it so much, I'm going to say it again. So the Creator and the angels are discussing where to hide man's divinity. One angel said, put it at the bottom of the ocean. They'll never look there. But God said, no, humans are smart. Someday they will find their way to the bottom. And another angel said, put it in the center of the earth. And God said, I suspect that one day they will look there. We need to find a more obscure spot. Another angel suggested the top of the highest mountain. But God felt that man would surely find it there as well. Finally, an angel said, I've got it. Let's put it in the place where they won't know to look. Let's place it right inside of them. So the treasure, the divine treasure of our individuality, as Rita spoke of in her reading, is within each and every one of us. It is God's gifts, and it is individualized as us. And we all have it. We all have it. We have a gift. We might not have seen it yet, or we might have. We're going to get into that a little bit today. The treasure we are to unbury is the unique way in which our divinity is expressed. So back to Elizabeth Gilbert's passage. The universe buries strange jewels deep inside us all, and then stands back to see if we can find them. The hunt to uncover those jewels, the courage to go on that hunt in the first place, that's creative living. Creative living. That's what separates, she writes, a mundane existence from a more enchanted one. Don't you want to live an enchanted life? I do. Doesn't that sound good?
Yes.
I lead a very enchanted life.
Yes.
It's better than mundane. Anything's got to be better than mundane. So shake it up a little. We all have something to shake up a little within us.
Yes.
We do. Now let's be clear about that something right up front this month, because I don't want 3/4 of you to tune me out thinking that I'm not talking to you. Me, what do I have? I can't do anything. Wrong. If you think that, I'm telling you, you are incorrect. You are wrong. When we say creative living, we are not talking exclusively about pursuing a life as a poet, as a singer, as an artist, as a musician, although that could be the treasure hidden within you, and that's wonderful. But rather, creative living, in the context of our conversation for this month, is about living a life that is driven more strongly by curiosity than by fear. A life in which you bring forth from you that which brings you joy and fulfillment. Because when you bring forth a life that leads to joy and fulfillment within you, you bless everyone around you. Everyone can feel it. You uplift anyone that's in your there's only one of us here, truly. This is a collective oneness that we are all part of. So when one of us really discovers the gift and the jewel that we contain within us, we bless everyone we come in contact with. And let me just say that again about this creative living. A life that is driven more strongly by curiosity than by fear. A life in which you bring forth joy and fulfillment to yourself, and it in turn blesses the world. So even if you aren't an artist, or a singer, or a writer, or an actor, you could be a baker, you could be so many different things. You can create in so many different ways. You can make jewelry. You can sew. You can be a beautiful being of light. You can be a happy person. That is a creative way to live life. And Gilbert gives the example of a friend of hers, Susan, who took up figure skating when she was 40. And actually, she had already been doing it competitively as a child. But she writes about this in her book, Big Magic. She had figure skating She had figure skated competitively as a child and loved it. But she quit the sport when it became clear that she didn't quite have the stuff to be a champion. For the next quarter of a century, she didn't skate. She was thinking, why bother if you can't be the best? Then she turned 40. And those milestone birthdays can bring up all kinds of stuff for different people, a different milestone. So let me go back to Elizabeth Gilbert. She was listless, unsettled, and out of sorts. She did a little soul searching and asked herself, when was the last time she truly felt light, joyous, and even creative? Oh, you can think about that. Take a breath on that one. When was the last time that you felt light and creative and filled with joy? So she continues. To her amazement, she realized the last time she remembered experiencing those feelings was when she was figure skating. And even though she was saddened that she hadn't felt that way in a long time, that she let 25 years go by. Again, what is the definition of creative living in our context this month? And so it's a life that is driven strongly by creativity, curiosity, than by fear. A life that brings forth joy and fulfillment and blesses us and blesses the world. So she followed her curiosity to see if that, at one time, this thing brought her joy and fulfillment. Would it again? And she bought a pair of skates and found a rink and hired a coach. She ignored the voice within her that told her she was being self-indulgent. Those voices do that. And preposterous to do such a crazy thing. After all, said the voice, you are 40 years old, you know. I don't know about you, but 40 is pretty darn young.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's all relative, right? She acknowledged, let me continue. She acknowledged and then ignored her extreme self-consciousness at being the only middle-aged woman on the ice with all those tiny, feathery 9-year-old girls. She just did it. 3 mornings a week she got up before dawn. Before her demanding job began, and she skated. She skated just for the sake of joy and freedom and fulfillment that she felt when she skated. She skated that because it made her feel alive. And about her friend's experience, again, Gilbert continues writing, it was a revolution, a literal revolution, as she spun to life again on the ice. Revolution upon revolution upon revolution. And please note that my friend did not quit her job or sell her house. She did not sever all her relationships or move to Toronto to study 70 hours a week with an exacting Olympic-level skating coach. No, she didn't do any of that. The story does not end with her winning any competitions or any medals. In fact, the story does not end at all, because Susan is still figure skating several mornings a week, simply because skating is still the best way for her to unfold a certain beauty and transcendence within her life that she cannot seem to access in any other manner. And she would like to spend as much time as possible in that state of transcendence while she is still here on earth. That's all. And that's what I call creative living. Isn't that beautiful? She did it for the sake of doing it, because that thing within her was guiding her, and she finally listened to it. And she lived a life of joy, of fulfillment. And we don't know who we inspire, uplift, transform just by our lives. And we do it for ourselves, and it just extends exponentially. It really does. So the question of the morning is, what treasure is buried within you? There's one thing you should know about uncovering it, though. It can be very, very scary. And it can take a lot of courage. Because living creatively means living into the unknown. And we know how much our ego just loves the unknown, loves it. Moving into the unknown can be scary. And here are some of the many ways we might be afraid to uncover our buried treasure. And see if any of these ring true for you. You're afraid that you won't be any good at doing whatever is nudging at you. You're afraid you'll be rejected or criticized or ridiculed or misunderstood or worst of all, ignored. You're afraid that there is no market for whatever you are offering and therefore no point in pursuing it. You're afraid that someone else has already done it better than you. You're afraid everyone else has done it better than you. You're afraid somebody will steal your ideas, so it's safer to keep them hidden in the dark. You're afraid you won't be taken seriously. You're afraid that your dreams might be embarrassing. You're afraid that someday you'll look back on your endeavors as being a giant waste of time, effort, and money. You're afraid you don't have the right kind of discipline. You're afraid you don't have the right kind of work ethic. You're afraid that you're too fat. And she writes about this. About this one, Gilbert writes, I don't know what this has to do with creativity exactly, but experience has taught me that most of us are afraid that we're too fat. So let's just put that on the anxiety list for good measure. All right. I'm too fat to do that. Whatever. You're afraid you will fail. You're afraid of what your peers and co-workers will say if you express your personal truth aloud. You're afraid of upsetting your family and what that may reveal. You're afraid your best work is behind you. You're afraid that you've never had any best work to begin with. You're afraid you've been neglected. This goes on and on. That you've neglected that treasure buried in you for so long that you will never find it. You're afraid that you're too old to start. You're too young to start. You're afraid that something went well in your life once, and obviously nothing can ever go well again. You're afraid of being a one-hit wonder. You're afraid of being a no-hit wonder. It goes on. The list is endless. This is fear. This is all fear speaking to us. When we have a dream, and then we ignore that dream, you know that dream does not go away. That dream is always popping right back up again in some way, shape, or form. It's always popping up. I've said many times as a child that all I wanted to do was be an actress. That's all I wanted to do. That's all I wanted to do. I performed, I sang, my sister's here, she knows. I had all the right contacts. I was in Manhattan. It was all there. But I ignored it. I let it just get sabotaged. Just didn't follow through with it. Didn't take all those opportunities that were offered to me. And then something funny happened. When I turned 60, I decided to call this my successful 60s. Well, in 2010, so now you know how old I am. In 2010, this center began. I wasn't planning on opening a center consciously, but since I was a little kid, I always had groups of people that I had to organize. And whether it was doing a carnival, whether it was, which I charged everybody for, whether it was playing board games, because I always had the best board games, and whatever it was, the community was so important. Always in front of a microphone, even at the age of 3, in the movie theaters in England, because they gave you free sweets if you got up and performed. I was the first one in line. But here I am again at 60. Yeah. Performing in front of a microphone. You know, this is life. It will keep coming up until you recognize it and honor it. And honor it, and then live. I love this place. I love this community. This is the love of my life. I am the mother. I am. Not that I want to be all of your mothers. But you know what I mean? It's like, it's the creation. It's like when I gave birth to my sons. They were created. And then this place was created. And each and every, but this place, that makes me so happy. It makes my heart sing. And I hope it makes your heart sing too. Because that's why we're here. We're here to remember that we have within us, all of us, hidden truths and hidden jewels. And when we ignore them, they just keep popping back up again. So embrace them. Embrace them. So here's a really important thought. Our fear is really boring. Boring! Are you so over being in fear? It never changes. It never delights. It never offers a surprise twist or an unexpected ending. Fear is a song with only one note. Only one word, actually, repeated at full volume over and over again through the loop. Over and over again, and we say, stop. We are all equipped, each and every one of us. This was amazing when I found out everyone else was equipped with fear. Because, we think it's just us. The people have. I remember Martha Creek, I went to see her, and she was like, honey, well, I can't do the southern accent. She's really good. We're all hardwired for anxiety. And I was like, wow, really? So for all of us to know, we're all hardwired for this fear. On the other hand, we each have a creativity within us that is original to each one, is individualized. We each have a personality that is original. We each have dreams and perspectives and aspirations within us that are original. But our fears are not original in the least. Gilbert writes this. I love this whole thing about fear. Do we really want to build our lives about the most boring instinct we have? This doesn't mean that fear will go away. Bravery means doing something scary. It means stepping out into the unknown. The truth is, we need our fear. Nature set us up that way so that we could react appropriately to being attacked by the saber-toothed tiger. We need fear in order to protect us from actual danger. We are hardwired with it. But we do not need fear in the realm of creativity. This is where we do not need fear. Ernest Holmes writes in Creative Mind and Success, fear brings failure. It's just that simple. Charles Fillmore writes in Atom Smashing Power of the Mind, fear weakens the viral life and the feet stumble. So just because you don't need fear doesn't mean that it won't show up, especially when you're trying something brand new. Your fear will always be triggered by your new endeavors, whatever they might look like. You ever do something new? Brand new. Something you never did, you always wanted to do. How many voices do you have going on in your head? You're excited, but then you wow, wow, wow voice of fear, because it's, remember, single-noted. Gilbert suggests that because fear will be your companion on the road trip of creating big magic in your life, you need to build space for it. So what we do when we are faced, what do we do when we are faced with fear then? So faced with fear of even trying to discover our buried treasure. So she offers us some wisdom in the form of a conversation that she has with fear every time she begins something new. And it was so great this morning when I went over the talk again that I printed this letter for all of you. It's in your bulletin. You don't have to get it now. It's in there. So when you go to start something brand new, you read this. Dearest fear, creativity and I are about to go on a road trip together. I understand you'll be joining us because you always do. I acknowledge that you believe you have an important job to do in my life and that you take your job seriously. Apparently, your job is to induce complete panic whenever I'm about to do anything interesting. And may I say, you are superb at your job. So by all means, keep doing your job if you feel you must. But I will also be doing my job on the road trip, which is to bring faith and focus and courage and devotion to all my work. And creativity will be doing its job, which is to remain stimulating and inspiring. There's plenty of room in the vehicle for all of us. So make yourself at home, but understand this. Creativity and I are the only ones who will be making any decisions along the way. I recognize and respect that you are part of this family, so I will never exclude you from our activities. But still, your suggestions will never be followed. You're allowed to have a seat, and you're allowed to have a voice, but you are not allowed to have a vote. You may not. You are not allowed to touch the road maps. You are not allowed to suggest detours. You are not allowed to fiddle with the temperature. Dude, you're not even allowed to touch the radio. But above all else, my dear old familiar friend, you are absolutely forbidden to drive. We have those letters now, and we can read them anytime that we feel that come up. Because remember, the treasures are hidden within you. Extraordinary treasures that you can't even imagine. You can't even imagine. Bringing those treasures to light is what you came here as a human to do. It's what you came here to do. And the clock is ticking and the world is spinning, and you simply do not have time anymore to play small. Time is running out on the human plane. It's what God in you, as you, through you, wants for you. It wants for you to be the joy that you came here to be, no matter what is going on in your life around. So I affirm that, knowing that, believing that you have the courage not only to discover, but to express your buried treasure. And I really, 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 I really hope that if you haven't already, that you truly look for it, because you are unique, and you are beautiful, and you are worthy of all good. And I love each and every one of you. And so it is.